Hi everyone. I am here, but I'm just standing out here on the cliff. Oh, what a little meditation, you know? So I'm just gonna give you this like sundown walk. See that beautiful sunset? And I want to talk about some things, but a long time I'm gonna see the cliff, you know? A long time I'm gonna come outside with me. So we're doing some cutting today. So yes. Hello, everyone, anyone. Yeah, we're doing some cutting and some cleaning. Like these, the bougainvillea had overgrown. Um, but yeah, I'm just giving you all a walk under these beautiful coconut trees. I know it's windy, so I'm gonna go inside. So at least it's not going to be as choppy. But there it is. We're out here on the cliff. I had them do some cutting today. So I wanted to come and make sure that they cut how they were supposed to cut, which they didn't. But still, I mean, I'm glad they cut because this is it's a huge space out here, right? And I'm so thankful that I had the eye to, you know, get this part of the property fixed because this little place has been a blessing as far as helping people who are looking for events, as far as the guests who stay here, having this nice, quiet retreat place to come to. So I wanted to start out here because I'm always inside, and a lot of you love this place and love the view, and you haven't seen it for a while. That's not cool. So there goes the Exodus house. The salt air has taken a lot of toll on it, but I'm gonna go back inside to get away from the wind so I can talk to y'all. I hope I can find somewhere quiet to talk to y'all because Miss Jojo, she is at large. Like she's out of school, and man, let me tell you. Okay, there's a window that's open. I don't need no lizards. I need not. I need not another lizard. So this is the house Kaka was telling y'all about yesterday. How peaceful and how quiet it is. So this is the room that we have set up for guests. I don't know if it's open. It's not open. So um, the brother from Aruba, brother Sonny, he has left with his family earlier today. Let me do some more. But someone had sent me an email and asked me to talk a little bit more about why do I think Tanzania needs foreigners, or why do I think having more foreigners is a good idea? Um, and can't the Tanzanians themselves be agents of their own success? So I'm going to talk about that. This is not about Tanzania. This is not about the Tanzanian people. It is not about the Tanzanian government. What I said yesterday, that Tanzania needs, or the country needs, foreigners because it is a part of it's a part of um, economic policy in large economies of scale. If you look at the specific dynamics that constitute those economies of scale, as far as their immigration policy goes, they have so many little things in place to keep their economies dynamic, and that involves the influx of people of different backgrounds and different generations. Okay, so I'm gonna sit in the garden. It'll probably be like 5 minutes before it's entirely dark, but I know you all will appreciate the peace and quiet. So let me try here. I hope this chair is good because with JoJo around, ain't nothing good no more. All right, that's not a good chair. So give me a second. But this is my life. I'm always on my feet, even when I shouldn't be. Like now, I shouldn't be on my feet. So when we're talking about economies of scale, meaning if you look at the history of the United States, the history of the United States comprised of immigrants, forced immigration, and then immigration policies that allowed people to come and work the land, use the land, and get particular benefits in the country. Excuse me. During the time in the post-emancipation era in the United States, there are specific immigration policies set up to encourage people to come into the United States and colonize the United States, as well as the Caribbean. These policies allowed immigrants from Europe to come in and take advantage of the opportunities that were there, build up communities, and bring their families and grow their families, grow their community, and grow their economy. If you cannot look at the success or the economic success of any country without looking at their immigration policies, there are certain factors that influence immigration. In the United States, in the West, in the Western world, slavery is a key factor to how people were moved after slavery in order to build up those areas, and during slavery and before slavery. But we're going to talk specifically about the post-emancipation era, because it is in the post-emancipation era that these economies experience their most industrial growth. Meaning, during that time, they were able to see more money and more people coming into those countries to take advantage of the opportunities. So let me back it up for you just a little bit so I can be clear that I'm not leaving anybody in the back of the class. Number one, when the Europeans came into the Western world, they saw all this land and they said, oh yeah, we can have some land. But who is going to stay here and protect the land and farm the land and grow the land and make sure that the Indians or the black people don't come back and take their land? So they had specific treaties and policies in place allowing for colonists to come into the Caribbean and into the United States to farm that land. Albeit the labor to work the land was mostly forced, but the people who came to the Western world were mostly imported or refugees or people from other places that came and worked the land and extracted the produce and sent it back to wherever it came from. Then in the post-emancipation era, meaning after people were freed from slavery, there was a vacuum of labor that was created. When that vacuum of labor was created, is it me or am I smudgy or blurry? Hold on a second. I'm gonna try clean it off. Sorry. Okay, that look a little better. So during that time, you find that there were new immigration policies and new immigration laws put in place to allow more labor, more skilled labor and even unskilled labor to come into the United States and come into the Caribbean, that allowed, or even in Latin America, The same is true for Argentina. The same is true for Brazil. The same is true across the developing world in the West. That immigration affected the way how economies of scale were built and developed. Having people and their resources coming to a foreign country, it means that they haven't given up, but they now embrace this new country because whatever it is that forced them out of their old country, they were running for their lives. When someone leaves their country, their cat, their dog, and their tree, and everything that they love, and come to a foreign country, they're completely vested in that new experience. And this is why you find in pockets of the United States these Italian neighborhoods that go back generations, these Irish neighborhoods that go back generations, these Dutch neighborhoods that go back generations, because a lot of people were fleeing persecution and a lot of people were looking for new opportunities and new advances. And they stayed there and they settled and they grew those economies, in those communities into economies that we're now looking at the United States as the largest economy in the world, right? Like this is phenomenal. And it's phenomenal because it's dynamic, right? When you have that kind of dynamism with the Irish, the Jews, the Italians, the Jamaicans, the Chinese, and all the Indians, and all of these people lumped up together, working towards success of themselves, their families, their communities, it compounds into success for the country. It's getting dark. Into success for the country. So when you have all of those things combined, you create synergies and dynamics. Those synergies and dynamics translates into the movement of goods and people and services. Right now, the United States has a bunch of visas targeted at young people to come to America and work. Maybe you work for 1 year and you go back to your country. They have a bunch of visas targeted at students to come to the United States and learn, and then you go back. And you have a bunch of different types of visas for people who are they've come to get married. B, they've come to be a skilled profession. C, they've come to retire. I've never really seen an American retirement visa, which tells you something about the country. But in any event, those visa those visa categories are designed specifically to grow the American economy. And then we have this thing called illegal immigrants. These the folks that come to America. Maybe they came out of a boat. Maybe they overstayed on their visa. Maybe they snuck across the border. Maybe they jumped over a wall. Maybe they went through a tunnel. You get the picture. They came to America illegally. Okay? That they came to America illegally, they can't necessarily do certain things. So they take any job that they can get. They can pick oranges, they pick strawberries, they do the jobs that other people are not necessarily willing to do. Lord God, it's gotten so dark. Yeah, that other people are not necessarily willing to do. So because of that, you have this hierarchical system of people with different types of labor skills and different types of sets, and then the economy itself becomes more dynamic because you can actually find someone to pick cherries when the people who are born in America, raised in America, maybe they have an opportunity to go to school, maybe they have an opportunity to do something that the cherry pickers don't, and so they find themselves in better jobs. And so cherry picking is not appealing to them, right? So when I say that Tanzanians need immigrants, I am not necessarily saying that it's like you know, the perfect silver bullet. And without immigrants, Tanzania isn't going to succeed. What I am saying is that with immigrants, Tanzanians can succeed a lot faster, and they can achieve a lot more in a faster set of time. Thank you, Fitzroy. Anywho, so um, that's what I mean when I say Tanzania needs immigrants. So Tanzania's policies has always been a little bit on the closed side. So they don't necessarily have the same kind of dynamics as far as immigration is concerned. They have specific things and specific reasons for, excuse me, for their visas and for the movement of people. They have tied it to some strenuous things that you have to demonstrate and you have to show, and you have to come with a wallop of money, which is not necessarily the proper picture when you look at the other well-developed country. Can you imagine if the people in America needed to have 500,000 or 100,000 just to go to America to live and work? America would never be where it is. It would never be what it is. And the people of America would never have the same kind of opportunities that they have now. And when you go to the United Kingdom and you look at their immigration laws of how they receive people, how they accept people, how they movement of people into the country. It's difficult, yes, because of course in the United Kingdom is a lot smaller than the United States. So their laws are a little bit strenuous, but nowhere in the American laws or in the United Kingdom laws do foreigners get discriminated against because they're foreigners. And here you're expected to accept it that you're a foreigner, so don't expect to get a loan from a bank. You're a foreigner, so don't expect to get a grant, and don't expect to get the kind of resources that other people can get because you're a foreigner. Regardless of how many people you employ, those are the breaks, right? And so it begs to pause, like what exactly or what playbook is Tanzania really reading from? Who is advising or giving instruction for how to grow the economy and how to develop the opportunities or how to develop the resources? Because a country this rich, bye honey, thank you, a country this rich with all of these resources, with all of these diamonds and tanzanite and gold and minerals and all of these things, a country this rich should not be this poor. And so Tanzania needs foreigners who have knowledge, know-how, and input. Tanzania needs foreigners who have exposure, but at the same time, do they even know what they don't know? And I don't think they do. Yes, there you go. Okay, so Bongo Zaidi says something which I think is fair, right? On the other side of the coin, he says, dynamics in terms of economies of scale, but places like the US developed based on cheap labor. Same for South Africa, of course. So we have the apartheid, we have this is why I started the conversation in the post-emancipation era. So in the post-emancipation era, there in the United States, the immigration policies that saw influx of swaths of immigrants in the early 1900s, those immigrants had nothing at all to do with slavery. Most of them were running and fleeing from famine. In the case of the Irish, they were running and fleeing from persecution. In the case of some of the Jews and the Dutch, they were running and fleeing from a lot of things. So not every single white person or every single people that you see of non-Black origins in the United States necessarily means that these people were participants in the machinery of slavery. So it's essential that you understand world history and you understand immigration policies and how these things are developed. So no, I don't totally agree with the statement. I agree with the first part of the statement that yes, the economies were built and developed and grown on the backs of slavery, but they could not continue to achieve any kind of growth without new policies for new immigrants. These new immigrants represent new debt. They represent new money. They represent new opportunity. So when an immigrant came from Ireland to the United States to say, okay, I'm here and I'm going to work in this steel factory, yes, maybe there was an oppressive law that prevented a Black person from getting the same job. And the reason why they brought that Irish person there is to keep out Black people. So I am not blind or disputing that fact. What I am saying is just take the immigrant policy, the migration policy as its own. When this migrant came to America, he's Irish, he's working in a steel factory, and he needs somewhere to live. He has to go to the bank to borrow some money. Maybe he works for 3 years to save his money. He goes to the bank, he borrows the money. When he borrows the money, he builds a home. Now he has a wife, a home, and then he has some children. Maybe he has a little land and he can go on from there. So the immigration of people helps to grow the economy. So when this person now went out and got himself a bank loan, that bank loan translates into now interest. So that interest is then paid onto his loan, and that creates new jobs and that creates new growth. So if you're talking about from the perspective of growth and development, you need immigrants to in all different dynamic areas of your economy to get it to sustain. So, and I'm talking in layman terms. I don't want to go like over anybody's heads. And this is why I'm making things as very simplistic in the way I speak so that you can get it, right? So this is why I started with the post-emancipation. Same in the case of, not exactly same in the case of South Africa. In the case of South Africa, there were Boers who came and they were running. They were running from something. They ran, and not every single Boer who came to do something to someone. Most of them were just trying to farm some cows. They were trying to run away from something, and they found themselves in their own little world. Yes, maybe that land belonged to someone, but at the same time, this does not mean that they themselves were part of the machine that deprived South Africans of opportunities and developed apartheid. So again, expanding the knowledge of the world rather than looking through just the pigeonhole of race will give you a different perspective when you're talking about economy, right? So let me see. Yeah, so this is where, so Bongo is saying, yeah, yes, so this is what I'm saying, Bongo. Yeah, cheap, unfair labor as a catalyst. Yeah, so what I'm saying to you is the policy. Okay, let's step away from America and let's step away from America, a place that has like a base in slavery. Let's go to Sweden. Okay, Sweden ain't never enslaved nobody. They have never had any run-ins with any Black folk. We don't have a Swedish colony somewhere to point to. So Sweden is a very good example of a European country that developed specific immigration policies surrounding bringing more people into the economy to develop the economy. And if you look at it also, Japan in recent years has had to overhaul their policies because they have an aging population and they need to have more immigrants. Italy, some cities in Italy they're now giving away visas and giving away houses for $1 as long as you can come and develop that property in order to develop the dynamics of their specific economy. So this is what I'm saying to you is if you strip away slavery, you can find countries in the world and look at their policies regarding immigration and how those specific policies have managed to change and create more dynamics in the country. So this is what I'm saying. So um so Bongo is saying also that the influx of immigrants won't cut it. No, an influx of immigrants into Tanzania will not cut it, but immigration policies will. Specific immigration policies designed around the things that I was talking about earlier, how the United States allows people to come and work and gain some on-the-job knowledge. That kind of labor, that kind of immigration policy allows labor to come and learn and also work for less expensive salaries, because in the states that do that, they have specific employment caps, or they have specific minimum wages where a skilled or an educated labor can find that money useful. So even though they're not necessarily living, paying rent, and working in the United States as a full and free citizen, they're getting the education, the on-the-job training, and they're getting that money that they can send back to Jamaica or send back to their country and continue to build up their own little world. So these are some of the things that I'm talking about. So I think not just Tanzania, but Africa in general needs to develop policies that are friendlier, because even after you have, okay, we're going to let one or two people come on in here, when they come in here, what are the opportunities that are here? What are the things that are here that is going to further uh, their movement? Because their movement creates dynamics in the economy. So that's what I'm saying. Yeah, so Bongo is saying we have a lot of people here. You have a lot of people here, but you also have a lot of resources that is not being developed. Okay, and if Tanzania wants to see these resources developed, then there are certain things that have to be done. The country has to definitely become more dynamic, right? Okay, so immigrant lottery, HB visas, right. So again, the immigration lottery, those are things that the United States strategically engages in. Like, if you should chase out all the immigrants out of the United States, the entire country would collapse. I'm telling you, they would collapse in a week, because they particularly go to other countries like India that has the IT specialists and the people who have the certain skills that the general labor pool in the United States does not. Those specific people, those activities bring people, and when you bring people, you also bring their families. And so the immigration lottery, the immigration lottery is one thing that helps to bring people into the United States. And those things is what I'm saying, is that when people come, they need a car, they put themselves in debt for the car. They need a house, they put themselves in debt for the house. They need to purchase things, they need to buy food, they need to move, they need to grow. Those things move the economy. So no, this has nothing to do with gentrification or nothing to do with the brain drain or things like that. Why are we looking at it as a negative instead of looking at it as a positive? So I wanted to have this conversation because people don't really understand. When you come from the West and there are specific policies in place, those policies are the things that grow those countries. The things that grow those countries are immigration policies. Without friendly immigration policies, smaller and developing economies don't necessarily have the opportunity to grow as they should. Okay, so I don't mean to say, well, yeah, open borders and all these things, having many people here. Yes, having a lot of people is one thing, but who are these people? There you go. That's it. New age development. They come with new ideas, new stuff. They help the economy grow. They help Tanzanians. They create small employment. They create other things, but the specific policies that need to be in place to allow for the economy itself to benefit from the growth, from the growth of the immigrant, those things need to be addressed, right? So that's what I say when I say we need foreigners. We need foreigners. We need, if you remain in a vacuum your whole life, not touching or knowing or getting any ideas of looking at things other way, you can't expect growth. You genuinely can't look and expect any kind of growth to come out of the country. And this is why, if you look at Tanzania's economy, it has declined in many ways from where it was at least uh, post COVID. So the economy itself, I'm not talking about the, certain other things. I'm talking about the economy itself. Okay. So it's like this. And it can be like this, meaning an upward trajectory. Um, yeah. So that too. Even immigration policies for the African diaspora, right? Hey, DC. Yes. No, so DC, of course, China has an immigration policy. China has a very strong immigration policy. They have an immigration policy, and guess where they have that immigration policy with? They have those immigration policies with the African and the Caribbean countries. Russia has an immigration policy. Are you joking? You need to, if you go and you do a research with all of these growing and developing economies, but the other thing China also has is they spent so much time on themselves, and they have managed to learn how to share amongst themselves. And that is one of the things that is missing here in Tanzania, is though the country has spent so much time with itself without so much trading and open borders and things like that, they missed the mark as far as um, concentrating energy or concentrating their resources on one specific thing. And that is because the policies that were in place were not necessarily there to be beneficial for the benefit of all. So it's not just a foreign thing, it's also something that needs to be looked at as far as Tanzania itself. So, yeah, North America, Canada, the United States, Latin America, South America had these policies. All of them have these policies at one time or the other. And they are very important. The dynamics, like the other day I picked up some chopsticks to eat something, and someone says, "You can eat with chopsticks?" Yeah, because we have Asians in America, and we're not in this little this little insular silo where we don't know anything and we don't really have any contact. You know, you can work in a workplace and there will be people from every country. You can work in places where you're represented at least by 30, 40 different countries, right? And that is extremely important because it helps to spread knowledge and ideas and food. How do you feel if, you know, like no one knows what your food is, or no one knows what your food or your culture or your customs are like? Because they, you know, they're you're an oddball. You're not a part of the culture or part of the society. So it's a complete night and day from the West, where you have all of these different representations of people because of immigration policies. Um, yeah, so exactly. So this is another thing that I think Western foreign people need to understand, that Tanzanian diaspora, meaning people who maybe they were born in Tanzania and they became American citizens, they would have to give up their American citizenship to also, excuse me, to become a Tanzanian citizen. In Tanzania, there is no recognition for residents. So you can be a resident all you want to. It doesn't mean anything. Can you imagine if that was a state in America, that people work in America for at least 5 to 10 years as green card holders, and they can borrow from the bank, they can buy cars, they can take out school loans, they can take out credit cards, they can do a tremendous amount of things to uplift themselves and their families and their communities with those flexible immigration policies. Here, there's no such thing as that. You are either a Tanzanian or you're not. You're not. That is it. You're not. So you're not a Tanzanian. You're not getting nothing. You're not a Tanzanian. You're just not getting it. You're not a Tanzanian. You're not gonna have, you can't apply for no loan for a car. First of all, they don't have those things here. Whereas, like in the West, you need a loan for a car. You don't have that. We don't have those things. In the West, in Africa, you have to buy everything cash. So if you want a car, you have to buy it cash. You can potentially, probably, possibly get a mortgage if you own your land or something. But again, land is cheap depending on if you're a Tanzanian citizen. If you're not a Tanzanian citizen, you might not be able to acquire the land in order to use that as leverage. Like, there's so many different ways, and the banks they themselves are not looking at, okay, this money can come back. They're looking at, why would I give you the money? You're not even a Tanzanian. So those are the things, and this is why I wanted to have this conversation, is because there is such a very huge and deep and ginormous gap between how people think things work here and how things actually are. Okay, so when I was having that conversation yesterday, someone sent me an email and asked me to talk a little bit more about it. And I'm talking about it because I am in that same boat with the inability to access certain kind of business things. I have opened a GoFundMe to conduct certain essential parts of my business. And I put that in I put it in the description box, but I put it in the live description, and I'll add it here. But I know a lot of people won't be able to click on the link, because access to resources in order to do anything is simply not viable. And people believe that, okay, you have a company, but at the same time, having a company doesn't give you the kinds of flexibility that you're needed in order to achieve. There's no business that does not require, at some point in time, additional injection of funds to make it reach to where it needs to go, right? And this seaweed business is the kind of business that you need to have a significant amount of money because you need space, you need to acquire the seaweed, you need to acquire packaging, you need to acquire labor, you need to acquire specific parts of that business. And after working with a major grant institution for over 9 months, they came back and wrote me and told me that they love my company and they love everything I'm doing and all of my data makes sense and they love it. However, they've now changed their grant to what they need are 100% African owned companies. And so these are the things that make me to pause, that make me question a lot of things, because I think number one, it is punitive. Number two, it is looking at the fact that, okay, why is it that a foreign company can come here and help to develop an economy? We're just not going to help them, even though they're employing people, even though they're creating jobs, even though they're creating opportunities. Let them go kick rocks, right? Meanwhile, the Tanzanian companies that are here, number one, are not working in the sector, and number two, they don't necessarily have the same kind of exposure or knowledge or know how to get to the same point. So what I want to know is, when you start making things punishable because you are a foreign company, when you start making those things punitive because they're foreign companies, when the banks won't give money and the government has no incentives and there are absolutely no grants to get because you're a foreigner, I want to know, what does Tanzania, the country of Tanzania, have to say or do to support the investors who come into the country seeking to help to uplift and grow their country? That's what my question is. Because unless those things are addressed from the top down, unless those things are put on a table and put on an agenda of discussion in these government hearings and government meetings, this economy is not going to grow. It is not going to get further than where it's at. It is not going to develop anywhere because it does not have the dynamisms. It does not have the same kind of structure as the Western world or the people that they would like to emulate, namely Egypt and Dubai, which they themselves have their own immigration policy laws. Like their policy laws are a lot more flexible than people think, right? So, and if you're doing business in Dubai, granting you have your residency, you have access to capital to get your business to where it needs to go. No one is looking at your company and saying, well, you're a foreigner, so so it's almost discriminatory. So how do we overcome those things? And who is actually in charge of this ship? Who is actually looking at their economy and saying, hey, we have 500,000 foreign direct investors with active projects in Tanzania, and we want to make sure that they can do what they're here registered to do. Who is in charge of that? Nobody. So let me see. Okay. So yeah, so there are many things that needs to be discussed as far as Tanzania is concerned. And this is why you see me doing these fundraisers, and this is why you see me trying to get people together to say, okay, this is what we need to do in order to move this forward. This is what we need to do in order to grow this economy. This is what we need to do. We need more participants. We need more people from the US. There's certain things that is just like, what? If you wanted to do some shipping, there's no such thing as a less than full container. You have to ship a whole entire container. And when you think about the volume of product to go into a whole container and all of the things that go with it. So someone might say, yeah, you can ship a container for 9,000, and that's okay, but it's all that comes along with it. You have boxes, pallets, packaging, a lot of different types of things that go with it. So there are peripherals that are surrounding the whole experience. So this is what I was talking about earlier, is immigration. Why Tanzania needs immigrants, needs foreigners. Okay, you don't have to be an immigrant, but they need to have foreign influence. Kenya up north, they got a bunch of foreigners, and their economy is just like, things are looking pretty good. They have the dynamics, they have the resources, they have the input, they have the people who can help them to grow to get to where they need to go. They have exposure, they have resources, they have people who are building new labs to do things. Meanwhile, we're here being punitive towards the people who we attracted to coming and investing in Tanzania. So Tanzania for sure needs foreigners, and they need a policy. They need a sweeping policy. They need a policy that does not charge one price to a foreigner and one price to a local. Because after the foreigner achieves the certificate of incentives and all of the documentation and all the residency and all that they need to move forward, you would think that, okay, that means that this company should be treated as a local company, and this company should only pay the same as a local, because it is written in the Tanzanian Investment Act that this company should be considered a local company. But again, when it gets down to the nitty-gritty, there's one law, one whole set of rules for foreigners, and one set of rules for local companies. One price for foreigners, which could be anywhere to 500 to 800 times more than the cost of local. And these are the things I think Tanzania needs to be honest about and needs to be more direct about when they are requesting for foreign investors and foreign investment. They need to be more direct about what all that entails, right? Because, to say, okay, I have X amount of funds to do my project does not necessarily mean, you also, from that project, you have to deduct the cost of living. From that project, you have to deduct the costs and expenses associated with children. You have to deduct the costs and expenses of transportation. You have to deduct the costs and expenses of the time it takes to actually process paperwork and how much money is involved in that. And there is no such thing as like a list, like, this is the laundry list of all that's included. And, so it's very unfair to a foreign investor to have one projection to say, okay, this is the cost of the project from the beginning to the end. And then as the project grows, you have the TRA, you have the TIC, you have double costs of things, you have things that are 500 times the cost, you have things that take 5 months to come through before you can be productive. And that is wholly unfair. And so when I say we need foreigners, We need foreigners to change this perception that they don't need foreigners, because everyone, even the rich folk, need foreigners. So, hey, Cookie. Hmm? Yeah. Okay, but this is not that conversation, sweetie. Thank you. Cheerio. Um, put some mosquito repellent on your legs. Yeah, so this is what I'm saying is Tanzania needs to be a little bit more forthwith and direct about what it is that they actually want. Money alone is not enough. Money is a very, 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 very weak investment. Money is dead if you just put it in the bank or if you just put it somewhere. It doesn't really grow at the same exponential rate as you would have one person who can work that money, who can turn that $5 into $5,000. If you can attract and retain the people who know how to work money, then Tanzania will continue to succeed. But you need people with know-how, and in order to get those people, you need amended policies. Let me see. Okay, so the foreign, this guy says the foreign minister. Yeah, someone has to be in charge of something, but it's not necessarily on anyone's agenda until it becomes something that they realize that they need. And even if you bring it to their attention to say, hey, look, y'all need to do this, because I have been doing it verbally and vocally in many open places and open chambers. I have been opening my mouth. But until there is an actual piece of legislation or an actual action to say this is what we need and we're moving towards it, because we need to develop the kind of policies that are going to grow our economy into the long term, because it is contracting not only for foreigners, it's contracting also for Tanzanians. Okay, Tanzanians, they themselves need foreigners. Tanzanians, they themselves need people who know how to do things. They need to have foreign friends. If you only have the same friends who do the exact same things that you do, you are not growing. But by the same token, people are like, we all right, we don't need to grow. We good, you know. But again, we're talking about the economy, we're talking about growth, we're talking about development, we're talking about opportunities. In my next video following this one, I'm going to stitch together all of the things that I've been saying publicly, all of the, the little feedbacks and speeches that I've been doing, um, in the different rooms that I have had the privy to enter into. And it just behooves me that despite the kind of work that I've put into Tanzania, the kind of things that others have put into Tanzania, that it comes down to an issue where it's almost cannibalism. It's almost like, okay, that's great. Now give me more money. Oh, good. Now give me more money. And you have to really question what exactly is going on here. And I personally think that there is knowledge, like people know what's going on. People understand what's going on as far as with the foreign direct investors who are coming here, investing in the country, and a lot of things are going like this and like that. People know, they know, but in that knowledge, I think people make money in the shadows, that when things are not going successfully for someone, or they can create an environment where things are not necessarily always going successfully, where, someone is benefiting from that. Okay, so whatever it is that you want to call it, but it is a fact that people make things difficult. People in certain government agencies make things specifically difficult, because if they can make it difficult, then that means you have to pay to get out of it. When you are here as a foreigner, you're like a golden goose. You're like, oh, she's here. She doesn't know the cost of things, so I'm gonna try to see if I can get something, right? And it's a very destructive mentality. So because that's very short-sighted. That is not looking at the long term. And this is what I say when I'm talking about the policies, the immigration policies and the foreign policies that are set in place. I have been lived in the United States a long time, and I have never gone to the DMV to get something, and it's one price for me because I was born in Jamaica, and one price for someone else because they were born in America. I've never seen that, where I went to go and file for something, or went to go get a lease or something, and it's one price for me, or I go to the government to get something or to file an immigration piece of paperwork, and it's one price for me and one price for people who are born in America. And if that's the case, America would not be where it is today. So I'm talking about this, barring slavery, barring all of that stuff. I am just really talking about the policies that are preventative from massive growth in this country. The kind of things that my company has to be engaged in to pay and do and pay and do, those kinds of things uh, take jobs from people. They take opportunities to invest more, to build more, to do more, to grow more. And so there's a lot of, you know, question like, really, is this how they expect to continue to do things? So I think a part of it too is they have been abused for a while, whereas the Germans and the English, and so they have these really, really uh, odious policies in place in regards to foreigners and in regards to Tanzanians. So I think they really need to address and readdress and reassess the way how they're going about certain things. Um, oh, here we go. So Fitzroy, so Fitzroy says something I've said before, like, yeah, based on their history, right? They have been colonialized from, they've had to go to war, they've had to go to a lot of things, but there are certain things that you could do. Like, I don't see any foreigners in Canada, America, or um, in Ireland or Italy trying to take over the country. That it's not happening because those people, they're not there as colonizers. There is a difference between a colonizer and an immigrant, a very, very big difference. So, it's one thing to have these certain kind of punitive policies, and it's because of colonialism, because we're all colonized, right? We were all colonized at one point or the other, but it has not prevented economies of scale from moving and past that and growing past that. It has not stopped that. So yes, you can't hold on to that kind of thing as well. We were colonized and the immigrants, or there is a very big difference between a colonizer and an immigrant. So you can't just say, damn all the foreigners, because the world is now this small. It is this small. Okay? It is very, very small. Movement of goods and services and trade and people and relationships and those are the things that create dynamics that grow economies. Period. Point blank. Okay? You have to figure out which part of the party you want to be in. Or do you want to go to the dance, or do you want to, stay home? So if you want to stay home, you can't continue to attract foreigners into Tanzania, and then when they come, you whip them over the head and say, well, you're a foreigner. Oh, you're a foreigner. You can't get, you're a foreigner. And it feels discriminatory, you know? And this is coming from someone who is very well grounded in my space and presence as, yeah, I'm a foreigner. I'm a Jamaican, and I'm happy to be a foreigner, but I'm here to help, and I'm here to do the right thing, and I'm here to grow the economy, and I'm here to provide jobs, and I'm here to provide resources. Yeah, I get it, but at the same time, when it comes to doing business, the funds that are needed to do business is going into other things that don't speak to the business at all. So y'all need to think twice and three times and set up some kind of desk of improvement for foreign relations, and bring in consultants and bring in the people who are actually here. You It was done in January. There was a foreign direct investment forum that I was invited to in January, and I sent my feedback, but we're almost to the next January and nothing was done. So these are some of the things that we need to consider. Yeah. Laws, let me see. Been telling them on. Yes, Bongo, and that's what I'm saying. Their answers, to why it's like this. But at the same time, I still have a whole entire business and a whole entire company to conduct. I still have a whole entire enterprise to go, and I have shareholders that I am responsible for and accountable to. I have employees that I must support every single month. And it's very unfair when you're hiring a certain amount of Tanzanians to ensure that, listen, I have kept 15 people off the streets. I have kept 15 people from poverty. I alone have kept 15 other human beings in shelter and food and water where they can grow their families and have dignity. I have done that, okay? And I could have done more. I could have done more, and I could have had more had we not been hampered in so many ways. It's one thing if the government does not provide subsidies, okay? That is Africa. I don't think any government provides any kind of subsidy to do anything. That's okay. But if the government has all of these people in place that are saying, hey, we're a banking institution, hey, we're a financial institution, we're a grant institution, we are a funding institution, we are we're an NGO working towards this, or we get grant from these foreign companies. If we have those people in place, that are here, but the money is not being released into their number one investor, which are the foreign direct investors, if that money is not coming back to the foreign investors, who is asking questions? Who is the advocate? I would like to know. Maybe I need to go spend some time and do some research and find a minister to connect it to this, because this is ridiculous. It's stupid. It's insane that I have to start a GoFundMe for people in the United States to help to fund my business operations. That's ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense. But unless you are here, you don't know. It's off the damn chain. And I'm speaking out of frustration, and I'm not even angry. I'm past that. Where I am I'm at a place where I don't necessarily care, because I've kept so much in, and the strain and the stress of all of these different types of things, and the cost of doing these ridiculous things, is too much. It is not the same like in the States, where you want to set up a company, you go online and boom, you have a company overnight. It's not the same. So, I have been hospitalized so many times, and I'm at the place where I have to prioritize my health. Like, I was in the hospital last week. I was vomiting blood. I had blood in my vomit from a peptic from producing too much peptic juices, because of the stress, because it goes straight to my gut. My stomach gets flooded with the cortisone, and it increases in my gut and tightens it and produces a lot of gastric juices. And I found myself sick with the flu. I didn't know I was not supposed to take NSAIDs, and I took an NSAID pain reliever, and I found myself vomiting blood and ended up in the hospital. Okay? And just that consistent breakdown of stress after stress after stress after stress, it's outrageous. If I didn't have CMOS, I'm sure I would have been done dead, because that's what I use to heal myself and keep myself buoyant. But this party is no fun. It's no fun at all. And I'm just trying to get my mind around, who is it that, after you attract these foreign investors who put their time and their energy and their money into this country, who is going behind to make sure that these companies are not falling through the gaps? I'm hearing stories of people who came with their money and started investing in Tanzania, and at the end of investing, they had no money for product. And this one person who worked with an NGO told me this situation where they had this lady he was working for. On one hand, she didn't have the documents. She went and got the funds to get the documents. After she got the documents, she didn't have the money for the product, and by the time she got the product, the documents were expired. Like, things like that, stupid things like that. If you get a piece of paper to do something, to run and operate your business, that paper expires. If you got it on the 1st of December, it expires on the 31st of December. That is ridiculous. How is that even possible? It doesn't expire on the 1-year anniversary. It expires when in the same year. There's no such thing. I mean, this is ridiculous. Those things are ridiculous, and they're looking at it like, oh, we're going to make a lot of money. No, you're not. You can't possibly make a lot of money like that. You can't. It's outrageous. There's no way you're going to make a lot of money like that, because you're not going to get enough people to buy into that. But what I realize is, where so many people are buying into it, is that they don't know. So they come and they invest, and they're like, yeah, I've got this going on, and And then it just becomes like, oh, and then I need to do this, and then I need to do that, and then I need to do this. Oh my gosh, I need to do that. I need to, ridiculous, rubbish, you know? And so as more and more people start to really talk about the reality of doing business in Tanzania, it is going to become more and more evident that you do need foreigners, and you do need a a policy for foreigners. You need a policy for foreign direct investors. It is necessary. It is absolutely necessary. Let me see. Crabbing up bar. Hold on there. Well, go on. Yes. So let me see up in these comments. Right. Yeah. So see there. So there it is. Okay. Tanzanians don't acknowledge their citizens born abroad. Okay. Because he's born to self, exposure is needed. There are those who think learning is a hindrance. We need, yes, change. So I don't know if we're gonna have to amass a coalition of we need to change stuff. Maybe that's what we need to do, but I'm speaking about it because this is the first time I'm strong enough, well, since yesterday, to really speak on the things, right? And I can't endure another bout of illness over stress for things that do not have to be this difficult. It doesn't. It really and truly does not. And this, I'm going to give you an example. Like, so this commenter says that Tanzanians don't acknowledge their citizens born abroad. Okay, and I'm going to tell you in contrast what Jamaica acknowledges. Okay, I don't give Jamaica a whole lot of credit, but I'm going to give them credit here. If you have a Jamaican grandparent, you have the right to file for Jamaican citizenship, though you were born elsewhere. Okay? So, Jojo, can you bring my charger, please? Yes, it's in my office. Right? So I'm going to give them credit for in my office, please. Yeah, so I'm going to give them that credit. If you can prove Jamaican grandparentage, I think even great. If you can go back and you can prove, and the reason why I know that is because Jojo was born in America, and I naturalized her as a Jamaican. So I have seen the form, I have gone through the process, and I know what the paperwork looks like. Okay? As long as you can prove, you need your grandparents or your parents' birth certificate to demonstrate that they were born in that country, and therefore you have the right to citizenship. So she has never been without her Jamaican citizenship. Picnic, what is sitting there? Jojo. She has never been without her Jamaican citizenship. Since she was 1 month old, she was naturalized as a Jamaican. Right? So these are some of the things. So you can take a page out of the book. It's not that hard to acknowledge your own people. Come on, give me this. Fast, fast, fast. Plug into this one for me, please. Here? No. And turn the switch, baby. And give me this. Mighty Aphrodite. Okay. Yeah, so it's not hard. It's not hard. So this is some of the reasons why a lot of people are not here, not coming back here, don't live here, though they have ties to Tanzania. And this is why the foreigners are needed, because the exposure is needed. Okay. Let me see. Almost 45% of Fortune 500 companies were founded by immigrants. Word. Let me finish reading. Or the children of immigrants. The best sports leagues and the most successful teams all recruit the best talent from around the world. There you go. Factual data. Okay, so this is not me saying it. Anybody can go and find this information. By the way, hi PT, it's nice to see you. Right? So it's this is true, okay? Because foreigners have a different way of looking at things and they're extraordinarily dynamic. You need people to come from other places who can see things, understand things, and figure out how to use the things that they know from those different places to flip that switch that you don't even know the switch is there until you see some foreigner come somewhere like, hey, there's a switch here. And it's not to say that people are ignorant, or it's not to say that they're stupid. It is to say that exposure matters and exposure is important. And without exposure and this other thing called grit, GRIT, which is something that is entrenched in immigrant people, okay? There is a kind of stick-to-itiveness and a kind of grittiness that immigrants have that you cannot buy, and you can't find it in people who are accustomed to living soft life. Because we who are immigrants, we recognize that we're in a new place, with new opportunities, and we are going to work for it no matter what. Come hell or high water, we're going to work for it, and we're going to reach for the stars, and we're going to make it happen. Whether we have to stay up late, get up early, eat biscuits for a week, sleep on the floor. These are the things that immigrants don't care about. We don't care how cold it is. We are out there trudging out in that snow. We don't care how hot it is. We are out there in the heat. We're doing whatever we need to do because we have people who depend on us because they have watched us leave. So we are looking at how can we make the decision that we have made paid off. Okay, so an immigrant is a different animal, whether that's a white immigrant or a black immigrant, but we are completely different animals. Okay, and this is why you see here in Tanzania, the industries of scale are built by people who perhaps they are generationally, but like as PT says, some of them are children of immigrants, whether those are Indians or Turks. Those people who can now call themselves Tanzanians, those people are coming from another generation. So if you look at the industries of scales and the captains of the industries, you are going to find generational people from other places, because an immigrant is a different kind of dog, and you need those in your fight. You need those in your fight. Okay, because once they give up their country for your country, they're loyal to your country 1010%. They are there for the get up and the get down. So you all need a different policy, and you need to start looking at things differently. Charging people triple prices. How, if the government charges a company triple prices, what are you also saying to the Tanzanian in the street? What are you saying to the Tanzanian in the street? You're saying that kind of behavior is sanctioned. Like, okay, those people, they don't have families, they don't have children because they're coming from a rich country. A rich country doesn't translate to a rich citizen. It doesn't translate that way. It doesn't work that way. That's not how it works. Tanzania is a wealthy country, but is everybody here wealthy? No. So why would you expect that because someone comes from the West means that they're automatically wealthy and you can gyp them? Even if they were wealthy, why would you even think of gypping them? Why would that even come into your mind? What does that say about your character? Right? So those are the things that people need to look at. They need to start looking at these things and stop being so goddamn short-sighted. This is a long, long ride. Okay, if they're talking about some open borders and they're talking about some African Union and movement of goods and people and services and this and that and all that stuff, if you don't have a network of dynamic people bringing in new breath, new language, new skills, new resources, new things, then we're going to get left behind. And I'm not here for that party. Okay, I didn't do all of this in Tanzania to get left behind. I'm not the last. I'm the first. I'm here to win. So I want my people to win. I want to see Tanzania win. But Tanzania is not going to win if they don't start fixing some of this stuff. They need to go through all of their books. They need to go through all of their books and look at all of their codes and a different price for this one and a different price for that one. As long as the company has or their residents in Tanzania or they're registered in Tanzania, come on, stop playing those games. Stop it. It's not helpful. It's not working and it's not worthwhile. Hey. Oh wow. Okay, PT, yeah man. I'm coming. Me I come, me have somewhere if you go, me I go to Kenya. I need a break right now. I need to run the hell up on away from here. But I got some work to do. The CMOS thing is a very, very important thing. It is a multi-billion-dollar industry. There is a lot going on and a lot to do and a lot that can be done. And I have found myself when we just started, there was just so many different kind of hurdles, like the things that I'm describing now. But I think it took Tanzania a while to get familiar to me, to get used to me, to see me more, to see my face at meetings, to understand who I am and understand my message. And that takes time. And it's not necessarily the best way to go about, things, but it is the Tanzanian way. Things take time and they can drag on. But where we are now is in a whole different place than where we were before. So I'm very happy for that, and big up to the Tanzanian people and big up to my Tanzanian friends. But we need to work on these policies, y'all. We need to work on these policies. These policies, this is no joke, okay? This is no joke. No joke whatsoever. You cannot have one policy for a foreigner and one policy for Tanzanian companies. You can't have that. It's either the company is a Tanzanian company, you need to have a universal recognition of your enterprises. Universal recognition for your enterprises. This means that you can't have the NGOs and the NGOs and the banks and the government institutions working out of this playbook of discriminatory practices towards foreigners. It's not going to fly. It doesn't work. It does not work. And I think Tanzania should be worried about alienating the people, the same people that they develop policies around. They don't want to go to the IMF. They don't want to go to the World Bank. They don't want to borrow money from anyone else. They want foreign direct investments. So make the foreign investors come and invest in Tanzania. And those investments is what's going to grow the country that they can use to build roads and build bridges and build this kind of stuff. However, if the policies are not beneficial to that number one investor, to this company, to the country, why do you continue to do those things? Why do you continue to have those policies in place? Because if you have altered, look at Rwanda. Look at the policies in Rwanda. Look at the policies in Kenya. You don't have to look to America. You don't have to look to the United Kingdom. There are places like right here in the same East Africa bloc that have different policies and different dynamics. Rwanda is a whole entire landlocked country that has more flexibility as far as registering a company, more flexibility as far as what you need to do in order to live and work in Rwanda. You have all of these different things that are bringing foreigners from all over the place, like me out here trying to tell people to come to Tanzania and tell people to, invest in Tanzania. How can I promote that? How can I sell that to people, especially business people? And it's very upsetting to someone like me because I'm a business development person. I can weave in and out all day long over numbers, over business. I can talk about anything in economics and policy. I have that kind of a brain. But how am I going to use myself and use my platform for encouraging people to come to Tanzania when Tanzania is not prepared to receive people like that? It's not fair. It really isn't fair. And so I'm saying the things that I'm saying because we need to change. Luckily, we have this company, under the East Africa Seaweed Company. I am able to shield investors and people from some of these nightmares. But I'm talking about the people who don't necessarily want to be in sea moss. What about the people who want to be in gold? What about the people who want to be in aluminum? What about the people who want to be in gem trading or in oil and gas? Or, what about those people? I could have done so much more to encourage and bring more people. I was on the radio in Jamaica. I had a radio show, a morning time radio show between 7 and 8 a.m. Okay, rush hour traffic, where all I talked about was business and business development and opportunities in trade. And I would have loved to recreate that show here in Tanzania, but I could not, because the diversity of the things that I wanted to talk about would encourage people into a brick wall, pretty much. So what I am looking for is people who can work together with what I have already done, because it's no damn joke. It's not funny and it's not easy. It's ridiculous. And it's almost there's almost a sense of awe and shock on the faces of some of the same government people that I have been able to acquire the same documentation that they made it so difficult for me to achieve. So as far as being able to allow people to come into Tanzania as residents and investors and buying land under the company, yes. There is definitely room under my company. But to tell y'all to come and do what I did, I would not encourage it. It is not for the lighthearted. Hi, Cookie. Okay. Yes, so this is what I'm saying. Bongo hit the nail on the head. I think you're talking about Tanzania being friendly to small investors like you, while Tanzania seems to treat all investors as big investors with a lot of dollars, like multinationals. That's exactly how we're treated. We're treated like big investors. They have a large investor approach to things. They don't have a small and medium enterprise approach to things, right? And that is not productive. As I said in my last live, is that small and medium enterprises have been the backbone of developing economies in the post-recession world. So for those of you who don't know, between 2006, 2007, all the way up to 2010, the entire global economy was submersed into a global recession. There ain't nobody had no money and ain't nobody had no jobs. It was, people call it a recession, but it was a depression. And during that time, a lot of the large investors who had used globalization as an opportunity to invest in America, to invest overseas, to invest in Dubai, to invest everywhere. When their loans began to be called and when they were in hot water, the first thing they did was they shut down all of their foreign investments everywhere, whether that was in Dubai, and I know it was happening in Dubai because I was in Dubai during that time, whether that was in United States, I know it was happening in the United States because I was in the United States, and I know it was happening in Jamaica because I was also in Jamaica, and I was able to see how the economies were affected. And so the new policies that a lot of these countries that are now succeeding off of, those countries came with new small and medium enterprise strategies. So financing small businesses, making access to grant and capital easily accessible, making things a little bit more easier for people to acquire. And so I loved it because prior to the recession, you needed to have a hell amount of money to do anything. Prior to the recession, you had to be rich to start a business. You had to be rich to have something, because the way how America was structured is um pretty much what they wanted to do was keep Black people from having businesses. So access to grants and loans, access to renting actually a space and building a community where you can do your business from, and all of this stuff to grow small economies, those were non-existent because small economies meant Black economies. And the United States had punitive policies from redlining to keep out Black people from owning property to keeping Black people from accessing loans. So because of those policies, structurally, the United States fractured from the inside when the giant global recession came. America was consumed. Main Street and the small and medium enterprises stood strong. They stood strong because they could rally their community, because they live in their community, because they eat in their community. They provide jobs for the people in their community. And so those small and medium enterprises were able to grow, and they started to develop new policies as in co-sharing and co-packing and co-office space. All of these co-office spaces that you see now, that is now a thing where people can have, like, okay, I have a desk in a co-office space. That didn't exist before the recession. That didn't exist before the global economic collapse, right? This working togetherness, that wasn't there. It developed out of necessity because the big old people were hurting. They had spread themselves too thin, went in too deep, and went into places that they should not have been in. And so what was left were the little people to pick up the pieces. And so federal policies changed, banking policies changed. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, all of these institutions that were only looking at larger things started looking at small things because they had to, because that is the mandate that came from the top. At the time, Barack Obama was the president of the United States, and so things had to change. So this is why I'm saying that y'all need to change. If you don't change, it's not going to change for you. Okay, something has to happen. It can't just continue on like this. Okay, because there are people who would love to sell. I need to sell more things, sell more ideas, sell more growth. right? I'm all about Africa. I'm all about the development and seeing Tanzania grow. But I can't, in good faith, pick up the phone and say to somebody who I know is sitting on an X amount of money, say, listen here, you need to come and snatch up this real estate because this. I can't say that, knowing what is going to happen to them. And so some of those are some of the things that I had to remain very quiet about, because as things played out, I was shocked and horrified by how they actually do stuff here. And if you don't have more foreigners or more people involved or more people from different places to give you more dynamics and more synergies and more growth, and people working together and working off of each other, not just providing jobs but also changing ideas and skills, exchanging ideas and skills, if you don't have that, you're going to continue to stagnate your own economy. Okay, so where I am right now, I've got everything I need to continue to grow, but everything is, young and small. Our company is just 18 months old. We just opened a restaurant, not necessarily as, as a play move to say, yeah, we're going to open a restaurant and we're going to be successful and our restaurant is going to bring us back millions. We opened that out of necessity because we could not get a space. I wanted a juice cart. We couldn't get space. I tried the mall, couldn't get a space in the mall. Airport, couldn't get a space in the airport. Three different shopping malls, couldn't get, to this day, no response from any of them. Like those kinds of things, thing and places that belong to the government. You would think that a company working towards the upliftment and betterment of Tanzanians in impoverished communities, that the government themselves would say, hey, they put in a bid for a piece of our real estate. Why don't we see what we can do to help them? But again, things take time, and when it takes time, it takes money, 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 money. So they need more foreigners. They need foreigners. Yes, I did say before, white foreigner, black foreigners, because foreigners are just a different animal. Go and do some research on what PT said, where he talked about the Fortune 500 companies. For those who don't know, Fortune 500 companies are the 500 companies that produce the most and contribute to the most to the United States GDP. Okay, and 45% of those are started by immigrants or children of immigrants. So we immigrant people, we ain't got no time to play. We come to work, we come to do business, and we're all about business. We're not necessarily the most sociable people in the world. We're not necessarily the most flexible people in the world, because we have a completely different focus on what we need to do, right? So, do some more digging, some more research, some soul searching. I know a lot of people watch this channel. I've been out here for 3 whole entire years, and I know there are a lot of people who are in places of power who know who I am and have heard what I had to say, and they are also listening to the things that I am saying. And so take that back. Take it back. Take all that I've said and all that I've discussed from allowing Tanzanians who have Tanzanian heritage and parentage to be able to find some way to residency, right? Find some way to work. The people who are here, the foreigners who are here, find a way to pull those people together. Find a way to have some kind of meeting and get those people in a room and have a real policy change on the table to fix some of these things, because I know Tanzania wants to change, but I don't think they know how to change. And they're not going to know how unless they find out from the people who are actually going through their systems and jumping through their hoops of fire. That's what they need to do, right? Okay. All right, so this is another thing. So Bongo says, but are the African Americans coming to Africa the ones with high disposable incomes from the US, or are only coming with ideas expecting to get the capital to start the business from Tanzania? No, they're coming with resources. There are bunches of them, but they're not coming to Tanzania. They're in Kenya. They're going to places, they're going to Rwanda. They're here. What are you talking about? They're pulling themselves together and going to Ghana. My brother-in-law, many years ago, went with a group of investors to Ghana, and they're still in Ghana. So I know that people are in different places doing things. They're not coming here looking for resources and looking for things and looking for opportunities. But there's no such thing as any business that does not need financing. It does not exist. No business whatsoever. At every business, if you are in an engineering company, or you're doing renewable energy, at one point in your business you are going to require to have a loan to go and get some of your windmills or some of your solar panels and some of your wiring and some of your batteries. You're going to need to have that. Okay, whatever business that you're doing, if you're trying to scale your business up, you at some point in time is going to need financing. Okay, so I wouldn't even talk about African Americans. I wouldn't even say, well, are African Americans coming? Because that's like targeting a segment of people by saying, well, they're coming and they want access to this. It is not an African American or an immigrant situation. It is access to capital, and it goes the same for Tanzanians. When you are doing business, it is a necessity to acquire capital. In Tanzania, they're looking at you as a foreigner first. They don't give a damn about what you've spent, what you've earned, how many people you hire, what you're doing. So I would even single out, I would just like separate that whole part, that first line, right? And talk about and by the way, the people with disposable income. Why in blue hell would the soft people with all their disposable income come here and do all this hard work in this heat, in this sun? So disposable income means something, okay? Disposable income means I have enough money that I don't need it. I can dispose of it into something else. Given the environment and the climate of Tanzania, is this a place that someone with disposable income would readily come and dispose of it? So it's not the disposable income that you need to be attracting. You need to be attracting the people with the can do it. Okay, the elbow grease people. That's the folks that you need. The disposable income people are the people who are looking at it, well, I don't need to do this. I don't have to do this. So why should I do it? Unless you're a fool like me. Unless you're a certified idiot, because I don't necessarily have to do the things that I am currently engaged in doing in order to earn a living. Okay? I don't necessarily have to do that but at the same time, the opportunity cost of achieving the things that I see that, okay, if we work on this, it can equal to this. So I have to step away from the things that I know can bring me resources in order to for the things that can potentially bring resources to have an opportunity to grow. Okay, so think about that when you say when you talk about disposable income does not necessarily translate into working people who have the time, the energy, the resources, and the natural ability to make things happen. Okay, so PT also says a lot of African Americans are in Kenya and a bunch of Afro-Caribbeans are there. And most of the entrepreneurs, the Kenyan banks even have special mortgages and services for the diaspora. I'm coming to Kenya. See it there? Because they have been interacting and they have exposure. Okay, and so they are understanding. Meanwhile, the diaspora folk can't even get a bank account in Tanzania. If you don't have the same kind of documentation that I have and the people who are invested into my company has, you can't necessarily have the same kind of things, right? Well, hold on there. So Ali, this is a nice one. Ali says, what is needed is to organize and have one voice and face the right people in the government. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that is something that we definitely need to do. My outlook is using the company and the position that the company is in and the rooms that I'm allowed to occupy through the company to use that as a bridge to build that conversation. Like, okay, so this is what we're doing, but how can you help more of us to do more? How can you help us to do more? But I'm not so sure that that is the way either. You know, it's that way has made headway, but it's, you know, I think the Tanzanians need to be willing to hear. They need to be, they want the change, but willing to make the change is something entirely different. Willingness to act. Okay, and act doesn't necessarily mean walking into a room and listening to a bunch of people and then going back to your desk and pushing your paper from the left to the right all day long until it's time to go home. Act means actually writing policies and getting engaged with other stakeholders and other workers who can work towards those policies. That's what that means, right? Let me see. Right. So DC says the big investors are doing just fine. Renee X doesn't have enough money in their eyes. Okay. So in this regard, I am not a big investor. Okay. And I am okay. I'm doing fine. Right. But what I am talking about is we're a small and medium enterprise that has been forced to play into a bigger arena than what a small and medium enterprise is ready for, right? And so we have the things that we need, but at what cost? What was that cost? Okay, so this is what I'm saying. Like a small and medium enterprise and a large enterprise, in the eyes of Tanzania, there is no difference because there is no small and medium enterprise policy or strategy. So where DC says the big investors are doing just fine, big investors mean people who have 2 to 3 million US dollars at their disposal to get their project off the ground, sustain themselves and their families for 3 to 4 years until that project starts to make money. A small and medium enterprise, a smaller company coming in at the bare minimum of what is required just to achieve the residency, the paperwork, the documentation, and all those things, does not have all that is needed in order that Tanzania demands. Okay? So big investors, 3 to 4 million, yes, you know, uh, but I have what I need, meaning there is nothing that I need today from the Tanzanian government that I don't have. There is no immigration paper, there is no export license, there is nothing that my company needs that we don't have. We have it all. We are in good standing with everything. TCC, TRA, all of the next 100,000 pieces of paperwork. They want them, we got them. What I am talking about is at what cost? Okay? So, whereas I have all that I need to do all that I need to do, when it comes to the actual operations and the running and working and the acquisition of goods and the sale of said goods, to access capital to do those things are not readily available. Okay, so companies coming in with 3 million, 3 to 5 million, their perceptions are completely different because obviously they're not in the same boat as we are, right? So, but does that mean that they don't have the same kind of predatory practices? Yes, they have the exact same kind of issues. How do I know? Because I know them, because I've been in meetings with them, because I've been engaged in conversations with them. That for what it cost me to register and have my paperwork and do the things that I am doing, it has cost them 10 times more. Why is that? Because I have a completely different way of doing the things that I need to do. And in Tanzania, there are 500 ways of doing things. But the more money you have, the more people are going to target you, and the more people are going to overcharge you, and the more people are going to overprice you, right? And so there are many different aspects of this thing, right? But we do need to have a conversation. A conversation is necessary. A conversation is absolutely necessary. What where DC was just saying, like, they in their eyes, right? They in their eyes, they don't necessarily really care. As long as they have this paperwork, they want you to pay this fee. Okay, there are no tax holidays and no grants or loans. There are no subsidies and no access to capital. Doesn't that sound odd? How that sounds very odd. Very, very odd. So those are the things that I'm saying. Like, how is it that we're attracting people, or we want to attract people, but we don't have the policies in place to support these things? That's what I'm saying, is that Tanzania really needs to address these things because they're losing very big opportunities. They're losing opportunities in their own diaspora, which is their own diaspora is Tanzanians who have lost their citizenship, Tanzanians who don't have the right to citizenship because their parents or their grandparents were Tanzanians, but they are not. And those things, like I said earlier, changes the dynamics, right? Those things changes the dynamics. Like, look at Italy after World War II. Italy after World War II, a lot of the money that went back into Italy was money that came from the States being repatriated back into Italy because of their policies of encouraging people to return to Italy. A lot of the money that was coming into America was money that was moving out of Italy to develop the neighborhoods in the United States. So that movement and consistent movement of money and developing small communities because of trade and the dynamic of foreigners. Joanna, that's not fair. Right? So yeah, so definitely big Tanzania is here. There's a lot of resources here. There is a lot of opportunity here. If you have the deep pockets and the big bucks, sure, come on down. The water is just fine. I can't even say that. I can't even say that with a straight face. Jump in. The water is fine. There are no sharks. So I wanted to do this to talk about what someone had asked me to follow up on what I said yesterday, and I'm no longer going around and around and around in circles, because I'm too afraid to say the things that I am actually thinking, and the things that I'm seeing, and the things that I know, and the things that I'm experiencing, because holding things in has not been very good for me. So I am going to speak out on these things, because these things need to be addressed, right? And for those of us who are in this fight, because it is a fight, for those of us who are in this fight, something needs to be done from a coalition perspective. We're not going to get headway by slinging small arrows at the toes of elephants. We need to get into the ear of the elephant. We need to get up close and speak to someone who can actually say, wait a minute, what you're saying makes sense. Let's see what we can do with actually doing something, because it's not going to continue to go like this, right? So with that being said, I'm going to wrap this up here. I've been on a whole entire 2 hours. I am going to invite you guys to please share and make a small donation to my GoFundMe. I'm going to put it in the description after this conversation for anyone who is interested in purchasing or partnering with the CMOS business. Let me go ahead and give you that email address. And it goes the same for people who would like to come to the Exodus House for vacation, exodusafrica1@gmail.com. Let's see. And for those of you who were in the chat talking to me about, things that we can probably do, the things that need to be, to be changed, especially those of you Tanzanian born overseas, send me an email so at least I have your email address. So when I speak to the people who I speak to, I can say, yeah, there is people that you should make policy changes for in your own ancestry, in your own, your own blood pool, that you need to start making policies available for, for a Tanzanian diaspora. They have to go through the exact same thing that a foreigner goes through. They have to come back to Tanzania and apply for a residency and go through the same exact hoops. And as I said earlier, that is not the case in every part of the world. For example, like I said, with Johanna and myself, well, not myself, I was born in Jamaica, but Johanna's ancestry, as long as I could prove her ancestry was Jamaican, she's entitled to a Jamaican passport and recognized as a Jamaican citizen. And if it was a matter of her grandparent, you could also prove your grandparent. So they go back 1 to 2 generations in Jamaica. So, and that is extremely important. So those are some of the policies that Tanzania needs to look into. They need to stop looking at one price for a foreigner and one price for a local. They need to stop looking at, how they can take advantage, of all situations. Jojo, what is going on? Right. So, anywho, this is my email address. I will be sharing the GoFundMe. Um, for those of you who would like to send something, I would prefer for you to send using the GoFundMe, because at least that's a way of keeping track that other people are supporting the project, you know. So we're past the project, we're at the stage of a company, but we're at a place in our company where we need to have a major investor, or a grant, or a loan, or something in order to meet the needs of the company. Okay, every single company at some point in time requires external input. And from the beginning, I have been fundraising. I had to fundraise to form the company. That is unheard of in the rest of the universe. But in Tanzania, it's a necessity, right? You have to fundraise in order to get documentation. You have to fundraise in order to get a space. You have to fundraise in order to, so there's so many different expensive pieces of this puzzle, you know. And I think you guys in America, I think y'all need to, you know, start appreciating more what you have, right? And there's certain things that I find myself like in just like, awe and shock, but I have managed to make these things so normal to me. But I remember once upon a time I lived in a faraway land called the United States, and in that their country, you can get a company registered overnight. You don't need to talk to anybody. You could just pay your $99 or $125 and you get everything that you need. And you register your company, and bada bing, bada boom, you go down to the bank the next day and you open a bank account, and bada bing, bada boom, you're in business. You whip up your little logo and your little everything, and wow, you set up your website, and by the end of the week, you're in business. You Americans need to appreciate the ease of doing things so quickly some more. You need to start appreciating that some more. How easy and how inexpensive it is. If you have an idea or a dream or a goal or a plan or something that you're trying to accomplish, whether that would be selling socks or whatever it is that you're going to do, use those things that you have available to you right now, right? Because you don't realize how much or how valuable those things are to your time and your well-being and your ability to move yourself forward progressively, right? So, I'm going to leave you with those words. Appreciate what you have more. You have access to certain things. Like, I look at Tanzania and I think, oh yeah, great, we have access to raw materials. We have access to, but raw material themselves, when it comes to manufacturing, requires certain things in order to make that manufacturing possible. The raw material alone is not enough. And so where you guys in America, we can just go onto Amazon and click and buy, and boom, pow, you're done. It is such a different ball game when you are over here and you don't have access to the materials. So let's say, for example, if you wanted to make your own toothpaste, right? There's so many things that you can just go online, buy it on Amazon, and bam, by tomorrow morning you could be selling toothpaste. But over here, the container itself for selling the toothpaste, you can't find it. The small things that will go into the toothpaste, you can't find it. Maybe you can find the raw materials, coconut oil, and the cloves. But beyond that, it's just a whole different scheme of things. And so this is why I'm kind of like, it's just shocked, like knowing all of the ins and outs and intricacies of the details, that on top of it, things are so extraordinarily difficult to achieve. But anywho, I'm still trying to ship my CMOS. still trying to work on, work on my business. We're past the project. We're doing everything that we can do, but at the same time, I have a clock to beat. I have my documents, my export paperwork, and I need to do that and ship on my paperwork before they expire, because as I said, in this country, it doesn't expire on the 1 year anniversary of when you get it. It expires on the 31st of December. Everything does. So I need to get my container out of here, and I'm trying to move quickly on that. Please, y'all, help. I'm gonna put my GoFundMe in the description box of this live or in the comments. I'm gonna add it to as many as my videos as possible. I'm gonna ask you guys to like and share, and please help me out to get this going, because you know, there is pretty much no other way but up for where we are right now. All right, thank y'all. Bye bye.